So this is task 2 in the digital branding module, and having chosen to refresh the National Trust, I thought it would be nice to blog on a lovely summer's day in the heart of the Welsh countryside, which I suppose sums up exactly what the Trust is all about. And on the surface they appear to be in good health. 4 million members, 19 million pay for entry visitors last year, so the charity seems fairly robust. So why refresh? Why rebrand? Well, there are a number of theories, of course, as to how and when you should refresh your brand. Some say that the best time to do it is when you're at the top of your game, when you are the leader of the pack, as it were, when you are at your most successful. Another theory, of course, ties in with the situation we experience at the moment, the economic downturn, and some say that's the best time to refresh your brand. When your competitors are tightening the purse strings and slashing budgets, when there's talk of doom and gloom, a refresh can not only push you to the front of the queue, but it signifies that you're alive and kicking, that you have hope and optimism for the future. So the current economic climate seems like the perfect time to refresh the National Trust. And before I show you my ideas for the visual aspect of how this refresh will work, let's just spend a few moments talking about the demographics and the brand signature that they already have, and how that leads into their strategic aims, because that will then walk us through my ideas for the new visual representation of the Trust's brand. So demographically, the heartland has traditionally been the over 45s, and this is an area where they are trying to do some work. They've employed in recent times external companies and agencies to try and find the next generation of Trust members, targeting particularly 20 to 45-year-old females. They call them out and abouters, and looking for females particularly who are attending Trust events for social purposes, and they see the females as the drivers behind that next generation of National Trust members. So work is being done on making that happen. Their brand signature talks of their essential identity, their uniqueness amongst a number of heritage organisations and charities, their guiding values, what the brand stands for, the core positioning, and the customer vision. What are they trying to provide for those 19 million pay-for-entry visitors and their 4 million members? Their inspiring vision is the brand's ambition and its profound purpose for the future. They identify core satisfiers, as they call them. This is the need to fulfill what the brand stands for. And iconography, which is the rules of brand appearance. So what they are visually saying to those who are looking at what the Trust can provide for them. So the brand signature then transfers into their strategic aims. They talk about a sense of belonging, which is challenging the perception that the National Trust is somehow not for me. It's an exclusive club. It's a bit fuddy-duddy. It's just bricks and mortar and nothing else. And that is a perception that they are trying to move away from, because the Trust is much more than historical buildings. The buildings they have, of course, used to be at the centre of community life, and that's another one of their strategies, to put them back at the heart of the community, not only providing a link to the past, but also providing a real community involvement in what's happening at the moment. They're looking to give members and visitors memorable experiences in wonderful places. Their mission statement, if you like, is to preserve and protect historic places and spaces forever for everyone, which sums up what they're after neatly, I think, in one sentence. They're looking to bring the places they own to life by firing the imagination with the widest possible of visitors, without compromising the duty of conservation that they have. Of course, conservation is a huge area for them. They have a number of standpoints on a number of environmental and conservation areas, as well as, of course, protecting that historic link with the past through the buildings and the parklands and the islands and the parks and even the pubs, which they are now moving into, and giving people the freedom to be creative and cutting back on the rule book. This is a way of shaking off that old-fashioned image that they are somehow an exclusive club and not for everyday folk, if you like. So the creative aspect is being worked on, and they are encouraging those who work for the Trust and those who visit to share their ideas, and in some cases make them happen. And of course, to provide a sustainable income in sustainable places, working hard to raise money to sustain the buildings through conservation, and in doing so increase the number of buildings in profit. So the strategy and the demographics and the brand signature tie up in giving us their intentions, if you like, and what they want to achieve by showing what the brand stands for. So with that in mind, here's my ideas for a new visual refresh of the Trust, which in the past has had, I think it's fair to say, an inconsistent visual image. There hasn't particularly been a brand identity. They have used a number of different visual images on various platforms with no real link between any of them, and so that was my starting point. I wanted that visual picture of the brand to be consistent right across the board, on traditional media, through stationery and business cards, to social media platforms, and of course the National Trust website. So let me talk you through how I've built the logo step by step, and the reasons behind each of the steps, and what my thinking is. The new logo uses a different font. I thought the old logo was very dull. It's very solid and black and really not imaginative whatsoever. Dominated by the oak leaf logo, and really said nothing about a forward-looking future for the brand itself. So after a lot of looking around and testing and trying new things, I chose Imprint MT Shadow as the font for my logo. I thought it still maintains a British look. It hasn't moved away a huge amount, but it's got a contemporary feel about it. It looks British, and I think it retains a look of quality and assurance, but it stands out as a step forward in the visual representation of the brand. I thought the oak leaf symbol was too important to ditch. This has been the symbol of the Trust for over 80 years, and through the very few refreshes of the brand that there have been, the oak leaf has maintained its position, which is why I thought it too important to lose. However, I have decided to use it in slightly less a dominant way than it has been in the past, but it still stays there, and I think alongside the National Trust text, it looks good. It doesn't look like it's been sidelined. It still maintains its important part in the logo. So comparing them together, and compared to the previous logo, the text is more dominant but isn't overpowering. The oak leaf provides a link to the history of the charity, and I think it works really well with the new font. And the colour is already providing a freshness to the brand appearance, but I thought it needed something a little more contemporary to make the logo stand out. So I came up with what I call the National Trust swish. I think it enhances the refresh. It shows a new approach. It shows an optimism, if you like, to the future of the organisation. And the colours that I've chosen for the text and the swish, I'll explain more in a few moments' time, because there is a reason for choosing the two different colours for those two different aspects of the logo. So when you put the text and the swish together, the swish underlines and draws attention to the charity's name, but allows the oak leaf to stand alone. I deliberately didn't want the swish to run under the oak leaf, because I wanted that symbol still to be there at the end, standing out, if you like. But in this new logo, I think the text and the swish work in that it puts the actual Trust name at the forefront, rather than just merely underlining as the old logo had it. The colours aren't chosen at random, as I mentioned. You think of the great outdoors, you think of the National Trust, you think of sunny days like today in the lovely countryside. The blue of the text represents clear blue skies, which we have sometimes, and of course the green is the colour of the countryside, and I thought that was the perfect match for that new ambitious look towards the future. So that's what the logo looks like. Let's have a look at how it appears now in situation, and let's start of course with the National Trust website. The old logo was tucked away in the corner of the home page. The new logo is the first thing that catches your attention, running across the top of the page. I moved the menu so that it now underlines the logo and it sits alongside the top of the banner. And I think compared to how it looked before with the old logo, the new one really stands out at the top of the National Trust website homepage. And I would use that same logo on the stationery. So the letterhead would look like this. I think it provides a colourful and vibrant header to correspondence from the Trust. Business cards would feature the same design too, and really stand out, and that visual representation of the Trust really cutting through on the stationery. In terms of social media platforms, I decided that it needed a different version to fit the constraints of size needed. That rectangular logo wouldn't work on the social media platforms. So here's what I've come up with. This is the generic social media logo. I've moved the Trust and the leaf to a second line. The swish is now used to cover the length of the text and creates a neat square logo that fits the social media outlets perfectly. So the swish is still there because I think that's an important part of the logo, and it just makes the shape of the logo perfect for fitting into the few social media platforms on which the Trust have a presence. Here's how it looks on Facebook. Fits perfectly into the Facebook logo space. The oak leaf symbol is then used as a marker for each individual post. On Twitter, I decided to use just the oak leaf symbol here. Shrinking the social media design wouldn't have worked, I don't think. It would have been too small, and it would have been lost in the space that's provided. But the consistent blue image is maintained, so when you're not using the text, that blue logo provides a consistent symbol across all of the platforms. And again, it's used as a marker for each new tweet. That's Twitter. Same on YouTube, again, because of the size constraints, the blue oak leaf again is used at the logo. And here's how the oak leaf symbol works on Pinterest. Previously, the Pinterest site carried as the logo an old National Trust road sign from a very long time ago. So Pinterest now has the same consistent blue logo as the other platforms. And because the National Trust has some regions, National Trust Scotland has its own charity. So Wales and Northern Ireland are the only two of the home countries represented here. I decided that, unlike previously where the regions had, as far as I can tell, just a random selection of colours, I've maintained the traditional red for Wales, built into that same rectangular box. So the Cymru Wales replaces the swish, and in the Northern Ireland version, again the text replaces the swish there, and the logo is green for Northern Ireland. Colours that represent the country, giving them a strong, recognisable identity. So in summing up, I see this refresh as a way of the charity introducing a more contemporary, cohesive brand image across all forms of media. It also looks ahead to opening new possibilities for a younger generation of members. And I think it portrays an optimistic, hopeful attitude in